Namaste. My name is Preity Upala, and I am a global thought leader and a multimedia personality. Welcome to my podcast, The Preity Experience. Join me as I explore some of the most fascinating and crucial issues that affect our world today. I take a unique global perspective on these issues, and the very foundation of my insights is humanity and spirituality. I'm Preity Upala, and welcome to the Preity Experience.
Namaskaram, everyone. Welcome to the Millennial Dharma podcast. I am your host, Sahil. Now, as you guys might have already heard, I've already mentioned this a couple of times about how lucky I am as a person. There are two amazing things that happened to me after I recorded my last episode with Neil about George Soros. So two amazing things happened to me. One was that I received my first hate/threat call, and it's never happened before. And this was from a restricted number. So I presume that this person must exercise some clout. And they expressed their feelings about how I am one of the forces that is breaking the country up. And so that was nice. And the second amazing thing that happened to me was I got approached by this really interesting person. Her name is Preity Upala. Hi, Preity.
Namaste, Sahil, and namaste to your wonderful audience. It's such a pleasure to be on your amazing show.
It's an absolute honor to have you at our show. Why I say I'm lucky that Preity approached me, because she had shared her background with me and I read it and I was like, wow, it's so rare to come across a person like this. So let me just give you a brief introduction about Preity. And I hope it's not going to be too long because there's so many things about her, and this just makes her such an amazing personality and kind of a perfect fit for the podcast. So she is a former Miss India International. She's a board member with the Federation of Producers Asia Pacific, Indian head delegate for the Asia Pacific Film Festival. She's an invited guest annually at the Cannes Film Festival, and she hosted the Moscow Horror Film Festival, which sounds like just so cool. And she's an ambassador for a lot of apex bodies that deal with issues like global women's empowerment, African women's leadership, feminism. She also has a weekly spirituality radio show called The Eternal Hour. And she has her own show titled The Preity Experience. She's also working on a new book which deals with feminism, which we will get to later. Apart from that, she is a certified Dharma ambassador. And again, we'll touch this because I'm really curious to know what this means. And being a Dharma ambassador and coming on the Millennial Dharma podcast, it just fits in perfectly. So, and then she's also conferred the title of Young Iconic Leader of the Decade by the Women's Economic Forum in Delhi, and also the Achiever of the Year at the Promising Indians Foundation Gala. I mean, just so many things. And she writes for a lot of publications. She's done a lot of podcasts, a lot of video shows. There's a lot of content about her on YouTube. And then she holds certifications on nuclear terrorism from Stanford University and counterterrorism from Georgetown University. She also received an honorary doctorate from the prestigious Krishnamurti Institute of India. So wow, Preity, that is so many different things into one big ball, which makes Preity. So what's the deal? How does your personality embrace so many facets of life?
Firstly, thank you for narrating my bio in the way that you did. It felt nice even hearing it. So I'm a perfectionist. So for me, I sort of think, what have I done? I have nothing to show for it. I'm one of those people that does so much and never looks back and has no kind of a sense of what my past achievements, which is the good thing is it makes you hungry, keeps you hungry. So you're always striving to be better and striving to be great, and really to serve and, sort of be the gift that you came here to be. But I think some aspects of my personality, like being very curious and very open, always, took me to the path less traveled on so many levels. I was always curious. I wanted to know. I have traveled the world. I've been to almost 100 countries and I traveled alone pretty much. Mm-hmm. But when I bumped into strangers, I would always strike up a conversation. People would invite me to all kinds of fun, interesting adventures, and I would always go. I've always sort of just dived in, into the unknown. into the abyss in a way. And that has been, I think, the magical formula for me. Being open, being curious about life, being curious about the world around me and other people. And genuinely, while I'm sensible, obviously, I don't do silly things. I just think I'm a very trusting person, and I've been not been a skeptical person on my travels. I've been someone who's open and positive and loving and warm and engaging, and that's I attracted good people. I must say there's a lot of bad people, bad seeds out there, especially when you travel as a young woman. But I think my personality just magnetized all the good folks, so, and some really magical type of people I've met, all kinds. So I feel like that was important. And then I think I never wavered from my values, my morals, who I am. I have a self-respect. I value myself. I know my self-worth. Ever since I was very young, that's never changed. And I've never sort of traded that for anything at all in my work experience, or, in entertainment or in the corporate field or in all the projects I've done. I've always remained true to myself. And also, I think I've taken the time to meditate on who I am and what my gift is, what is my dharma in a way. And that has kept me on the straight path and kept me sane and kept me true to myself, because I think this is a world where people just want to be someone else. They want to be liked, they want to be loved, and they'll do anything. And I think for me, somehow that was never important to be popular. It was just, I just want to be able to sleep at night and be proud of myself and make sure that my parents are also proud of me and how I've conducted myself. And I must say, I'm very close to my parents and I speak to them quite regularly, and they really are, I think. And they never sort of pushed that onto me. But ever since a young age, I think my parents had noticed that I made sensible decisions. And the one person they didn't have to worry about was me. So, and I don't think I've let them down, thankfully. So I think these qualities have lent themselves to kind of really putting myself out there and pursuing things that I was interested in and passionate about. And I think being fearless is a quality that I have that is rare. I've noticed meeting so many people don't have the courage, I think, to go all in.
I agree.
To give up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a rare quality. And that takes a lot of courage, but I think the reward is also on the other side of fear.
I can relate to so many things that you said, because just like how you're a solo traveler, I've almost always traveled solo. I've actually never had any, I've also been very trusting with everyone, and I've been on amazing adventures, unplanned things all my life. And this is what I feel actually with people. So many people just don't have the courage, just to, let go and be trusting. And that just limits their life experiences so much. But anyway, you spent time growing up in Dubai, in Australia, and now you're in the US. And plus throughout your life, you've been around here and there. If I wanted to point out that Preity is from this country, like which country would you pick out for that?
Oh, that's a great question. I really consider myself, it's funny because I speak a lot on globalization and globalism. And from a political spectrum, I'm actually very critical of that, because this very globalism has led us to this COVID situation. Exactly. It was globalization that went unchecked, so I'm critical when I talk about it in a political spectrum. But in my own personal life, I do call myself a global citizen, because I love traveling, and I have felt at home everywhere, no matter where I've traveled. And also I've grown up in several cities. I think America is a very destined place for me. I think this is where my destiny will unfold. I wouldn't say this is home so much, but I feel this is a destiny opener for me. I think spiritually and in just sort of emotionally, my heart is really with India. I think my spirituality is obviously very Indian and dharmic, right? So I think in my heart of hearts, deep down, I really feel that I'm a proud Indian and a proud Hindu, I would say, or a Sanatani, That's has kind of played a big role in my identity. But I must say, Australia, I think their mannerisms and the thinking, they're either very easygoing, level-headed, grounded. They have some very good qualities that are very rare and specific
Yep.
to Australians. And I feel that I got those when I lived there. And growing up in the Middle East it's a mixed bag, I think, of a lot of interesting experiences and memories. But you take the good, and there is a lot of good as well. And I'm grateful, I think, for all the years that I spent there, because I think they enriched my personality, and in some way my tastes come from there. And of course, I like there. Thailand is a place that I call very close to my heart. I've been there a lot. I feel very much at home there.
Okay.
Bali too, to a lesser degree, but Thailand,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. So you use the word dharmic and you use the word Sanatani, right?
Yes.
And you're a certified Dharma ambassador. So what does this mean, and what does this entail, being a Dharma ambassador?
It's a great question. I was a Dharmic ambassador before I ever got certified to become a
As a
Dharmic ambassador.
okay.
I feel, firstly, we have to look at the word Dharma.
Yeah.
I think Dharma is one of those untranslatables in words in Sanskrit, which
Yep.
just don't have, anything comparable. Almost every Sanskrit word, to be honest, is an
No, you can't.
untranslatable. But the most of the spiritual terms, yoga, karma, dharma, moksha, samskara, all these amazing,
Yeah.
beautiful words are just on another level,
Yeah.
So
You kind
can't
of directly
comprehend
yeah.
the profundity
Yeah.
and the depth of Sanskrit, to be honest.
Yes.
When we look at dharma, it could be the way, it could be your path, it could be your purpose, but it could also be religion. It's also faith, because when you, in Hindi, Urdu sometimes, or even in Sanskrit, when they say dharma, they're talking about my dharma, my religion,
Yep.
my faith.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. For me, I think dharma, I use it in the I used to use it as to mean purpose, because I think the West looks at it as karma is, they think it's, it's a equal and opposite reaction, consequence. And they
Yep.
think dharma is, sort of your path in life. But in actuality, I think when used kind of every day, dharma really means kind of faith in a way, but, staying true to your heritage and your lineage, and this amazing sort of civilizational wisdom, and kind of being having that intact, and also talking about spirituality, I guess, but in a very Vedic way, because I think for us spirituality is in that context. So a dharmic ambassador is someone who obviously propagates these concepts, and it could be just in a more broader sense, but I think the way that it's supposed to be is specific to Sanatan Dharma, because that's really where the word comes from. And the way that I was certified, it happened by an advocacy group here in America. And they have a program, and most of my knowledge about Sanatan Dharma and Indian history and culture, it came from my own research. But they did have a program where you go through a program, and you do a little test at the end, and then you officially get sort of that certification, and then you can go out to schools and universities or any public forum, and you're qualified to speak and write on these dharmic topics. I was doing that even before, but I just thought getting the certification is just it makes you more credible, I guess, and more legitimate in a way.
Okay.
So I do read. I write and speak on issues like Vedic philosophy, Vedanta, and yoga, feminism, Shakti, and all of those Vedic philosophy, all of these things within the context of Sanatan Dharma. Because as you may have noticed, there's a lot of misappropriation and distortion of this incredible body of knowledge out there, especially in the West, and people use these concepts too loosely.
Yep.
And when I was younger, I didn't care. I probably thought it was amusing. But now, as I get older and as I get deeper into my own faith and my own tradition, I find it quite offensive, and I'm shocked and I'm baffled, and I don't like it. I don't think it's okay. And we need people from our fold, I think, to step up and correct when it's taken out of context. Because what I've learned is, I think most people are good faith actors. I don't think they're here to offend and be bigoted and racist or offensive. I think they're genuinely enamored by our culture, and they like all of these concepts, and they are using it in their daily life, which is great. And if you explain to them the real meaning, they will respect that and they will accept that. So I have, in my own dealings with the West, I guess, persuaded people to get the right meaning of a lot of these things. So I'm very proud about, I've had countless, I guess, debates, conversations on many, many spiritual Vedic aspects. And it's a bit sad that there's so much of kind of misinformation out there, but also the good news is people are very interested. They're very excited. They're genuinely very taken by all of this. And if you genuinely teach them the history of it, I think they will accept it. Very, very few people will think that it's their domain to call it whatever they want to call it. That's a very, very small number. Most people, by and large, I think, are very humble. They have humility and they have respect, I think, for source. But you have to come, I think, in the right way, because what I've noticed also with Indians and especially with Sanatanis, they can get defensive, or it's all a bit too much. I think they get triggered very easily, and they can't articulate it very well. And they end up putting people off almost, because people think, hey, somebody's coming down my throat here. I've seen this happen a lot, in the West.
True. Yes. Yeah. But anyway, so you were talking about this book that you're working on, feminism, right? We're living in times now when there's the third wave feminism. And
I think it's the fourth and the fifth wave, to be honest.
And this is my take of it, is for the fourth and the fifth wave of feminism is now the demands of the feminists have become just blatant, yes. It's just ridiculous. And feminism it's still a very controversial topic, and everywhere, even in India, and it's running so deep that a lot of people are questioning our own Sanatan Dharma, whether it's whether it supports feminism or it's with feminism. And Indians and Hindu culture has always been on kind of the receiving end of being against feminism. So what is the truth? What do you have to say about this? Where does Sanatan Dharma stand when it comes to feminism?
Well, we are the last remaining goddess worshipping tradition in the world.
Yeah.
They were few to begin with, and we are the only surviving one. So if Sanatan Dharma goes, that is the end for goddesses and goddess worship, which is so important and something that we've had for 7,000 years plus.
Yeah.
When I got this idea to write my book, because I realized that Western feminism, radical feminism, this fourth or fifth wave is not doing its job. In fact, it's putting off a lot of men, and it's being very counterproductive. 93% of women around the world don't call themselves a feminist, which says a lot. So it's only 7% are those staunch radicals who are, yes, it's what used to be about rights. Now it's become about entitlement. It's become about man-hating, male-bashing, intersectional, toxic intersectionality machinery. Yeah. And it is putting off men, it's putting off women. It's gender reversal is very unhealthy. It's becoming very, very lopsided. Here in America, most of the women are very hard. They're very cold. There's a lot of men, especially I would say maybe on the West Coast, they are very soft. They are too effeminate. They're being made to be ashamed of their inherent masculinity. Mm-hmm. So they are sort of very, castrated in a way. And then the woman is not getting that masculinity and power and strength from the man. So she is finding it within herself. And when she is too busy being like a guy, she can't be the soft, vulnerable feminine that everybody loves. So there is this serious off balance going on. So
why do you think you mentioned how men in the West have become soft and kind of more feminine? What is the reason for this? Now, there are a lot of theories that go behind this, but what is your take? What is the main reason why this is happening?
I think it's a political reason. Mm-hmm. I think this identity politics, when it goes too far, we are now in the business of shaming people and smearing people and labeling them. And maybe 10, 15 years ago, you had these crazies. There were few who would, the social justice warrior types. They were actually fewer in number. And if they sort of labeled someone, it wasn't a big deal. I think
Mm-hmm.
now they have garnered so much power, and they've been obviously been hijacked by various political ideologies
Mm-hmm.
around the world, almost in every country,
They're
to
kind
a
of being
point
used
where
as
now they're holding
scapegoats.
society ransom.
Yeah.
And so men are, even up maybe 5 years ago, it was different. I think men were just macho and it was okay. Now, even in America, if they flex their muscles or whatever, it's just they're shunned. And I think women are getting the upper hand, I think, in a very unhealthy way.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some abuse of power there. There is some kind of distortion of the, like, why, I thought this was about rights. Now suddenly it's becoming about getting rid of all the men in any position of power and planting females. But guess what? You have good females. You have a lot of ineffective, bad female leaders too. We're seeing it. They're more ineffective than the effective ones. You could even say that about the male group as well. But
Yeah.
now you're seeing all sorts of unsavory people in positions of power, right? So that's the reason why men are forced to become soft, because if they don't do that, they'll immediately be shunned. And I think they've been indoctrinated from their childhood. And at least on the West side,
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of very Marxist here. And it's been like that for a while, I think. And boys here grow up, they're very effeminate. They're a little too emotionally unstable, I think.
You
But
think?
all of this led me to think about, doing a critique on the Western model of feminism. And then I thought, well, what does the Indic framework have to offer? And I realized, so it led me to do a lot of research on Sanatana Dharma and the Shakti, which is feminism, our
Yep.
doctrine of
Mm-hmm.
feminism. And I was blown away. There's such a stark difference, because I think in Sanatana Dharma, we uphold the goddess, we uphold this female, we put her up on a pedestal, we worship her. And Indian woman, the quintessential Indian woman is graceful, elegant, she's beautiful, she's stylish, she's soft, sensual, she's erotic, she's sexy, she's all these beautiful things, and she's strong and powerful.
Yep.
You see these CEOs, they're wearing saris and they look fabulous, but they can do a good job too. They don't have to look like dudes like they do out here.
Yep.
So that, when I compare empowered Indian woman and some women in the West, huge difference. But my book was also, I'm like you mentioned, unfortunately we have a habit of importing these Western concepts and superimposing them on existing frameworks that
Yeah.
actually work. And when you do that superimposition, you end up with some kind of mishmash of a framework that does not work. And we can see this with liberalism, with secularism, with all of these concepts that have been imported from the West,
Yeah.
and it's all hogwash now.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing this with feminism, where my fear is that suddenly the Indian woman is now going to become, go towards this third, fourth, fifth wave, and
Yeah.
and we have a gap anyway. I just don't think it's what we need. I think we really need to go back to our roots, and we need to find the essence of what it is to be a woman, and really cherish and appreciate and celebrate and bring that up.
I think minus a very small percentage of women here in India, especially like amongst the city people, even among them, a small percentage, they really want those Western feminism things. But majorly, still, a lot of women do understand what really feminism is, and they are willing to stand up against this kind of this third, fourth wave of feminism. Now, when I asked you that, what is the reason why men in the West are so soft? I mean, this is the general thing that people are saying these days. Do you also think that there is a biological reason? Because a lot of theories are coming out about there being
Diet?
There was a whole debate about this. I think there was a TED talk or something where they had said that the water in the US, it has a lot of the female hormones, like the female equivalent of testosterone.
Estrogen.
Yes.
Estrogen.
This is suppressing the testosterone in men, which is the kind of the main male hormone. What do you think about this? This sounded kind of like a conspiracy theory or just something like outright ridiculous, but I don't know. Is there some truth in this?
I'll tell you where there is truth, that it is diet related. The water is, I know that there's a lot of gunk here in the water. We have very bad water actually for a developed great country. It's terrible. Bottled water is really the way to go. And even that is, we don't know what sort of, there's a lot of fluoride, there's a lot of kind of toxins. But the thing about the water is there's a big difference between East Coast and West Coast. So if it's the same water that's going to the whole country, then I would say it's a conspiracy theory, because I would say the East Coast is still it's not that the men on the East Coast, like New York, Boston, Chicago, they're really pretty masculine, I think. I didn't find this sort of reversal so much over there. But when you look on the West side, there is. But then you look at the West and it's ideology, it's sort of indoctrination and all that. And I will say, if you are a vegan, for example, you're not getting a lot of protein that a meat diet would get. But I've noticed that in this sort of hippie West kind of population, they are very mindful of what they eat, but I don't think they eat very healthy. I don't think they eat a very balanced diet. Like in India, we actually have a much more balanced diet, even though we're vegetarian. Here, they can be vegan and they're actually very weak and they're missing out on a lot of nutrients. And I feel that biologically it's coming from the diet, and that's related to the food habits, I would say, from this culture that is predominantly on kind of West Coast in America. And because you don't get these problems in the Midwest, and I don't think you get them on the East Coast either.
I'm actually from a maternal family, but the women, they don't work, they don't do jobs, and they don't make money. But they're still the center point of every family decision and everything that even we do as humans. Like they're the ones who are kind of orchestrating it. So I guess that is kind of the real feminism.
It's true. I mean, look, the woman is the boss, and ask any married man, he knows the woman is the boss.
Yeah.
And honestly, across the world, across cultures, not all cultures, I would say, I would exclude a few, but most of them, I would say, that the woman is the boss. It's just that I think they don't know that they're the boss sometimes, and sometimes the man doesn't remind them that they're the boss. So there is, but in India, at least they know that they are the decision makers.
Yeah.
That this much I think they know, and I think mothers and grandmothers know the kind of the power that they hold in all families. And you can do both. You can obviously you don't have to be a housewife if you don't want to. If you want more, you can do that. You shouldn't be shunned, I think, for either decision.
Yes.
Because I think there is the flip side, where if there is somebody who's very ambitious, who wants to go out there in the world and be a mover and a shaker, that person should be encouraged. And in India, I see a lot of women getting graduate degrees and, becoming doctors and MBAs. And in business school, it's more women. They're very smart. They do very well. And now they're earning the same or more, and in the STEM fields, I think India ranks number 1 with the most number of women in STEM fields. So that's a very good statistic that, you look at a country like America, they're at the bottom there. There are very few women end up working in the STEM fields here.
And
but in India, it's overwhelming.
This is such a good stat. No one ever talks about it.
I mean, it just sort of came to my mind as I was thinking about the STEM fields, and I thought I definitely need to put this in my book. And many other such statistics which show the sort of the practical application of Shakti in the larger society. And the premise for my book is to introduce this Indic framework to the West, and also for them to maybe take a look at themselves and contemplate that perhaps they don't have all the answers, and also that there is another alternative framework out there. Because I think what Sanatan Dharma and the Dharmic framework or the Indic framework presents is actually an alternative to the predominant framework of our time, which is the West. And ultimately, you can take from both, right? But I think in the West, they don't realize that something else exists. And I see this a lot, even in the independent free thinking circle. Very few thought leaders realize the richness and the depth of India or Dharma. They just, for some reason, it doesn't kind of show up in their mind. They're busy critiquing everything else. And here is a framework that is incredible.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the oldest civilization in the world, and also happens to be the second most populous kind of nation. I mean, what does that tell you? You know, it's the oldest, and yet it's kind of the largest today. What has it
It's
done
still
right?
surviving.
Why has it
Yeah.
thrived? You know, I think the world can learn a lot from India. I think
Yeah.
it takes two things. One is, I think it needs obviously some humility on the part of the rest of the world to see what India is made up and can contribute. And I think it's also our job to showcase it, because how are they going to know if you don't tell them? Because it seems like there is a lack of this. I think we're lost in translation over here. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a bridge between the East and the West, and I think I'm a ambassador for this civilizational wisdom. That's really how I see myself.
Okay, so that is your dharma.
Yes.
So by when are we gonna see this book, and like, have you thought of a name for it?
I mean, I have a tentative name, I think called New Feminism or something like that. But
Okay.
no, I'm writing it. Look, I'm sure I'll write a lot of books. I'm a political, geopolitical analyst, right? Among
Right.
other things that I do. So I'm sure I'll write a political book as well. And, you know, I'm sure I'll write another book on philosophy or Vedic spirituality at some point, or just spirituality. And,
Okay.
but I do think that this is an interesting topic. You know, it's been interesting getting feedback, I think, from people. It's a very contrarian perspective, and I think it's a hot potato that people don't want to touch, but I think it's in our faces. So it takes a brave person, I think, to kind of write a book like this, but it does need to be marketed properly. It needs to be picked up by the right folks, I think, to get it out, or else it won't take off the way that it deserves. So I'm in the process of making sure it's the right time and the right context and all of that. So it's very exciting, but my dream for this year is that I'm going to be a published author. So I will write a book. I do think it's going to be this one, but there are other books in the pipeline too.
I wish you all the best. I hope you do get to fulfill this year. So guys, that was the first episode with Preity, and we're going to be doing more episodes together, so stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please do leave a rating and please do subscribe on whatever platform you are. Alright, soon.